For over 30 years, BHM has been the trusted CPA firm for closely held businesses across Ohio and West Virginia.
BHM has made life easier for myself and our company when it comes to tax and accounting.
At BHM, we develop top talent to tackle your most complex challenges.
A CPA firm can be the lifeblood to a successful business. If you don't feel that way about your firm, ask yourself why not.
Visit bhmcpagroup.com to schedule a consultation. BHM, the CPA firm simplifying the complex.
It's Monday.
It's July 28th.
And the word of the day is Moorish, spelled Moreish.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yes.
Good.
Very important. Which describes a food so enjoyable that it makes you want to eat more of it. Used in a sentence, food is Moorish.
I feel like we've all seen Eli eat some less-ish stuff, though.
A lot of food is Moorish.
Yeah, if they didn't want me to eat Ritz crackers by the tube, they wouldn't have made them so convenient to fit into my mouth, right? It's just
Solid
what it's
argument.
for.
It's very sexy. I'm Noah Lugeons.
I'm Eli Bosnick.
I'm Heath Enright, and broadcasting delayed from America's Far Center, we are the Skepticrats.
On this week's episode, the Justice Department wonders if a find and replace for jump will work out for them.
Trump will stop just short of throwing a smoke bomb in the middle of a press conference.
And we talk about solutions to the long history of misandrist toilet technology.
Finally.
do. But first, the rest of the intro music.
Joining me for headlines tonight are my fellow Skepticrats, No Lugeons, and Eli Bosnick. Gentlemen, we're going to talk about the news in a second. So, I don't know, what's something nice about summer to start us off?
It's 103 degrees where I'm at, Heath.
Cool.
The way that Hulk Hogan died during it.
Interesting.
Positivity. Like it. That's worth an ice
Interesting.
cream.
Compliment sandwich.
All right. In our lead story tonight, we have a small update on a story we covered last time around. Some might call it interesting. Some might have even been mocked for calling it interesting. And okay, I realize that puts me in a group with QAnon lunatics. Not loving that, but once in a while, there's actually a conspiracy. They do happen sometimes, just not the one those people think. Of course, I'm talking about Hulk Hogan dying. And Peter Thiel and Bubba the Love Sponge are weirdly quiet all of a sudden. Interesting. Anyway, moving on to some other news. Donald Trump is very clearly in the Epstein files.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, we already knew he was friends with Epstein since the 90s, and it's no surprise that Trump's name would appear in the 300 plus gigabytes of data held by the DOJ regarding Epstein's multiple prosecutions. But we learned some new information that makes it worse than just being longtime friends with one of the most evil people ever. And we learned some bad stuff about Donald Trump, too. He's already caught in several new lies just in the last 2 weeks, and his team of loyal sycophants in the administration seem to be helping with the lying. And most importantly, Donald Trump does not want us to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, no, he keeps trying to do something like outrageous enough to change the subject, but there's literally nothing he could do at this point that we're not expecting in terms of outrage, right? So it's like it's very much a boy who cried wolf situation if wolf was a slur.
Right, yeah.
So
He's out there shooting somebody on Fifth Avenue. Damn it, no, I predicted this. Fuck.
I already said they didn't catch
yeah,
that.
real hard to do a distraction when you're a psychopath forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to run through the recent timeline on this. On July 6th, we covered this last time, the Attorney General's office and the FBI released a memo saying there's no client list in the Epstein files. That still seems like it's true. Sex criminals keeping a Rolodex diary would be a weird move. The memo also reiterated that Epstein's death in jail was a suicide. That might also be true. Lots of moving parts. If it's not, I will admit. But it didn't help calm the suspicion when the DOJ released 11 hours of video the next day, claiming it was the full, raw surveillance footage from outside Epstein's prison cell on the night he died. And then a bunch of people noticed 62 seconds of missing time. That was visible just by looking at the time counter on the video they put out. And it got even worse when digital forensics experts discovered the so-called raw video was definitely 2 videos that were edited together, and there were almost 3 minutes missing. Pam Bondi later claimed that the prison facility always has that same missing 62 seconds every day during a system update.
Yeah, for movie escape.
Yes.
Good
Well, you
for
got to start the
plots.
timer
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah, right,
what the
right,
fuck is
yeah.
George Clooney supposed to do?
Run in there and strangle him real quick.
Yeah. I
So-
did think about that if it was 62 seconds, you really wouldn't get any time to be menacing. You'd have to be like, fuck, go.
Yeah, right.
Strangle
Man,
him,
you better
strangle
be
him,
sitting on this
strangle
side of the
him.
cell.
Tie him up. Oh my God. What are you doing with his shoes? No, we don't have time for the shoes thing, man. Oh my God. We are halfway done. Oh, shit.
Fuck, we got to come back tomorrow now.
We got to get to a prison that has like a 5-minute uptate every
Oh
day.
my
This
God.
is ridiculous. This is untenable.
I'm out of breath. I really hurt my shoulder.
Okay, the documentary needs to be called Gone in 62 Seconds when they do it.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so obviously none of that I just mentioned proves a murder. But it's all sloppy as fuck by the deep state, which, by the way, is currently made of people like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, whose entire career before this was based on making up weird lies about the deep state in their
Right.
head.
Right. Just going interesting. Yeah. So, no, look, if you wanted us to take your people seriously, your people shouldn't have been Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. That's on you. You chose
Exactly.
that.
Also, get longer tapes. You're like my wife trying to use the same free Google Drive plan. She signed up for it in college. What are you doing?
Move the 62 seconds around so that when they're planning the thing, they can't do it and escape so easily. Yeah. Okay. Moving ahead to July 16th. QAnon people are on day 10 of another mass meltdown at this point, and Trump is freaking out about losing a big part of his base. So Trump makes it definitely worse. He truths on Truth Social. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue forward because I don't want their support anymore.
I wanted a record low 37% approval rating.
Right.
I'm already going to my room.
Imagine being one of the very real Americans who learned this weekend that this is what turned your Trumper dad against him.
Yeah.
A lot of mixed emotions
Right.
that day, huh? A lot of people real struggling.
All right, moving ahead to the very next day, July 17th, and the notorious liberal rag called the Wall Street Journal reports that Trump wrote an absurd birthday letter to Epstein in 2003. Apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell included that letter in a leather-bound book of other birthday letters from people who really wish they never wrote birthday letters at all. That book was examined by DOJ officials during one of the Epstein investigations back in the day, and according to people who reviewed those pages, the letter from Trump has a marker drawing of the outline of a naked woman. That's the frame, with Trump's signature serving as pubic hair, which, okay, that does track artistically. And
Right.
inside the outline is a little skit in which Donald is talking to Jeffrey. Here's the text. Voiceover. It starts with a voiceover. Voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything. And then Donald says, apparently Donald is replying to the voiceover when he
doesn't
starts
know
talking
how sketches
in
work
the
inside
skit that
his
he
own
wrote.
sketches.
It's insane. Like, I know there's a lot of worse stuff, but like the level of misunderstanding of how speaking and skit writing works. Yeah. Okay, so Eli, do you mind being Donald? And
Yeah, no.
Fuck, I guess I'll be Jeffrey Epstein. Great.
Thanks, Heath. I'm glad you didn't ask because I would have said no on that. Would
Yeah,
have been really
I
awkward.
figured I got to jump in. All right, so Donald.
Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is.
Nor will I, since I also know what it is.
We have certain things in common, Jeffrey.
Yes, we do, come to think of it.
Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that?
As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you.
A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret.
Come on.
Oh, yeah, I bet he's echoing that same sentiment to Tall Tyler right now, but, with more outrage and ketchup.
Okay, what would Jeff like as a birthday message? How about a letter from me to me about how we're both pedophiles? What? Hey, what could that be about besides we both fuck kids?
I can't imagine. What's the
Armani
topic there?
cologne.
What's the secret topic?
Yeah.
Jesus. And I think Trump's claiming that somebody else wrote it. Like, I don't know, like an aide wrote that insane skit letter birthday thing to Jeffrey Epstein. Whatever. So we learned from that same article in the Journal that they spoke with Trump 2 days before publishing to ask him about the letter. Trump told them, quote, "This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story," he said to the Wall Street Journal.
He's like, no, we're asking you about.
Trump also added, exact quote, "I never wrote a picture in my life." The president of the United States, everybody.
I'm too dumb to do that many words is his most plausible defense, though. Okay, so I'll give him
That's
that.
fair. Trump also told the Wall Street Journal, "I'm going to sue the Wall Street Journal." And that's exactly what he did. On July 18th, Trump sued the Journal for $10 billion. There's absolutely no merit to the case, even if the number was not insane. But just the threat of a lawsuit from the President of the United States obviously has a chilling effect on the entire concept of a free press. However, the Wall Street Journal, the champions of liberal justice owned by Rupert Murdoch, the Wall Street Journal, will not be caving as of now. So I guess a little bit of good news in there. Either Trump loses or Rupert Murdoch loses. So like win, I guess. Well, except for the concept of journalism.
Right.
Something
yeah.
in there.
Well, and the part where one of them wins, too.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Could we trick them into a legal battle to the death? Right? I bet they both sign a lot of paperwork without reading it, right? Which is like, and here's the thing for the lawsuit, right?
Make the contract into a lady, and his signature could be the pubes, and
yes,
we'll
exactly.
Yeah, we'll get him.
That's his Roger Rabbit shaving a haircut.
All right. Well, that brings us to the very same day. Also on July 18th, we learned that over 1,000 FBI staff members were instructed to comb through all the Epstein files this spring and find any mentions of Donald Trump. And it turns out they found some. And when Trump got a question from a reporter about it, he said he never heard anything from Pam Bondi about his name in the files. A few days later, thanks to the Wall Street Journal, with a giant smirk somehow in their article, we learned that Pam Bondi told Trump back in May that he was definitely mentioned in the Epstein files. That's according to senior administration officials who were at the meeting where it happened. Sounds like someone is lying because, those are opposites. So there's a lie in there. Well, the big string of revelations and obvious lying led both Democrats and a few Republicans in Congress to demand to see the files. And thanks to the way it works in the House, that went very badly for Donald Trump recently. Proposals in the House go through a committee process, including the Rules Committee at the end, before anything goes to a full House vote. So Democrats in every committee have been demanding a vote on releasing the files every day. That was forcing Republicans to constantly vote against exposing sex criminals. So on the 22nd of July, Mike Johnson tried to shut down the House early for the August break, shut it down entirely to avoid the ongoing embarrassment.
Yeah, no, which is like if you asked your partner if they were cheating on you and then they just left the room, right? Like rather than answering.
Smoke bomb.
Should we look into the Epstein files? Well, we're having class outside today.
Right.
I can see you. You threw a smoke bomb, but I can. All right.
Outside.
So yeah, apparently Johnson and Trump were hoping we'd all forget about this whole kerfuffle between now and September. Or they wanted some time to do, I don't know, whatever. Meanwhile, apropos of nothing, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche just spent 2 days meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell in jail. And that's never the job of the deputy AG. That would be the job of a nonpartisan career prosecutor in the DOJ who knows about the entire case, like Maureen Comey, for example. But Maureen Comey just got fired for having the same last name as her dad. That dad, of course, would be James Comey, who helped Trump get elected in 2016 by announcing his probe into Hillary's fucking Hotmail account right before the election. But James made a death threat in seashells against Trump in Trump's head, and he fell out of favor because of that threat. And also, apropos of nothing, Maxwell is currently serving 20 years, and she's asking for the Supreme Court to grant an appeal of her conviction, and the DOJ has been telling the court to reject that appeal. All just unrelated facts and coincidences, I'm sure.
Yeah, no,
the DOJ won't switch anything around.
Maybe Bill Clinton is pulling the strings through the deep state, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're predisposed to believe in deep state shit, this is it. This is it. I'm not saying it's definitely what's happened, but this is it.
If you want a cabal of secret pedophiles, we have the Catholic Church. That's what we're
found
saying.
it. Yeah, we got it right here for you.
Okay, well, another bit of good news, I guess. Mike Johnson's panic timeout didn't work. The House Oversight Committee decided Johnson can go fuck himself and get in trouble with his son. And the committee showed up on the 23rd to vote for a subpoena that demands all the records from the DOJ. That same day, Trump called the whole probe a con job and a hoax. And then on the 24th, Johnson said, quote, "It's not a hoax." He also added, "We want full transparency." So apparently Mike Johnson's totally cool with subpoena, and he actually wanted that the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
He's
I
all about
wanted
transparency.
class outside because I knew we'd work extra hard. I'm not backing away. I'm moving towards the hard
bushes.
work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So even with all this new information, a bunch of the QAnon people are still convinced that Donald Trump is their savior and he's totally innocent. Here's the latest post hoc theory on that. All the mentions of Trump in the Epstein files were actually planted by Joseph Robinette Biden.
Oh, probably used an auto pen and everything.
Perfect time.
So it doesn't even count. So the nefarious Biden plan goes something like this. Epstein gets jailed in 2019. I forget who was in charge of the DOJ at that point. It doesn't matter. Biden takes over in 2021. He says nothing about the files, but he's also secretly writing up Carrot and Donald Trump in marker every few pages in all those fucking files. Then he fakes a senile episode in the debate. He drops out. He throws Kamala Harris into the ring with only 107 days to go, letting Trump win, and knowing that Trump would start the process to release all the files this year. And then Trump would see his name in marker next to carrots everywhere and he'd panic.
Well,
got him.
Yeah, I mean, we do know how convincing he finds post hoc marker additions on official things. So, yeah that's fair.
That'd be his stay, right? He just looks down, his hands change. MAGA. Now, to be fair, Heath, Joe Biden's actual plan was to rely on the decency and humanity of the American people, which turns out to have been a way dumber one than the up carrot Donald Trump one. So, maybe we should have just tried the up carrot Donald Trump, is what I'm saying. Before you get all snippy.
I got to say, that's an amazing plan if Joe Biden did that. Like, he'd get so many Heath points back if that's what happened. Anyway, all that being said, I do want to be fair to the Republicans. I heard myself start to say it.
Yeah, I was going to say, take me there.
Okay, Republicans aren't just a monolithic cult that's protecting Donald Trump. They also have
Aren't they?
reasonable actors with intellectual honesty, like Lauren Opal Boebert,
There
for
it
example.
is.
Okay.
You might remember Boebert for giving the second best Heege at Beetlejuice the musical. Well, she takes sexual misconduct very seriously. And, okay, yes, she married a guy named Jason with a Y. Not great. And yes, Jason exposed himself to children at a bowling alley when Jason was 24. And yes, Lauren was present at the bowling alley and got banned along with Jason. And then married Jason with a Y after his probation for that crime ended. But she divorced him. eventually, 19 years after that incident. And more importantly, Lauren Opel is a problem solver. In order to get to the bottom of this whole Epstein thing, Representative Boebert wants a special counsel investigation led by Matthew Gaetz.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
She
Hell yeah,
wants
she does.
Matt Gaetz to be in charge of investigating the sex trafficking of children. And I guess he's got some relevant experience that he's bringing to the table?
Sure. Yeah. No, other people would have to call those numbers to know whose they were, right? Or they wouldn't know the Wayfair codes in advance. They'd have to refer to the sheet. That would slow
You get a
them
bunch
down.
of real furniture and you're like, what the fuck
Yeah,
is
right.
happening? This is crazy. I got to sell another thing on Facebook Marketplace. This sucks. So when we talked about this on the last episode, I described the QAnon idiots kind of like the dog who finally catches the car, except the car was, the disappearing snowball and the dog's freaking out. And that was fun to watch. But now I think it's even better in some sense. Those people are likely to remain disappointed when there's no evidence of their insane theory about a pizza dungeon or whatever. But it's possible there will be evidence that fucks with the Republican Party. It's already fucking with the Republican Party without any releasing. And maybe a bunch of lying gets exposed when we find some more information. And maybe Bill Clinton gets exposed too. And whoever else.
Sure.
I'd be great with that.
Yep.
Whoever's in there doing evil stuff, let's fucking ruin their lives. Absolutely. Or we check and there's really nothing. Maybe it's just people like Trump and Clinton getting mentioned as associates like we already know, but no crimes in there. But if that's true, there's no crimes in there. There's really nothing incriminating. It really seems like Trump would have Pam Bondi release it all by now and clear his name. But he's not doing that.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And in Sugar Tawny news, with all the terrible declarations made by Donald Trump on what seems like a daily basis, it's nice every now and then when we get a wacky one. One that we can sit back and enjoy as a very obvious symptom of dementia, throws our nation's economy into disorder. And we got a prime example of that this week as Coca-Cola announced a new version of an old new product because Donald Trump tweeted that they would.
Yep.
Stupid.
A new Coke based on the Mexican version? What could possibly go wrong?
CIA needs some money. Yeah, so it's such an obvious flail to distract from Epstein. Trump had to think of anything to change the subject. And he was like, new old soda, I think, right? I'm announcing a new old soda.
Almost certainly was just looking at the things on his desk.
Yeah, right.
He was like,
yes. Diet Coke. Yep.
I have an announcement about Coca-Cola. Tyler, can I make an announcement about Penn? No? Okay. Coca-Cola. I have an announcement. Right. So
Epstein file. Fuck. Why do I have that?
my name highlighted in Epstein file. Shit. Right. So on July 16th, the president tweeted, I have been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in Coke in the United States, and they have agreed to do so. I'd like to thank all of those in authority at Coca-Cola. This will be a very good move by them. You'll see, it's just better.
Yeah, no, trust the guy who puts ketchup on his well-done steaks and orders the fillet of fish, everybody. It just tastes better.
Yeah, and he's not even a Coke person. He drinks Diet Coke, like 12 cans a day. This is him, like, crumpling up a grape Capri Sun, being like, all Napa Valley wines are biodynamic now. Trust me, it's better.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
about grape stuff.
Yeah. Now, there are several problems with this statement. The first is that Coca-Cola's cane sugar product, often called Mexican Coke, as Noah mentioned, is sold in the United States. It's available here, though less commonly, and it's imported. The only other product he could be describing that uses cane sugar would be the infamous New Coke, a flavor so unpopular and universally reviled that Noah wrote an entire essay about it on our sister show Citation.
Which was ahead of its time. It's topical now, isn't
That's
it,
right.
Cecil?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's also worth noting that all of this, the product announcement, it's based on two equally stupid ideas, right? So the first is that US-based cane sugar will benefit our economy in a way that the current ingredients of Coca-Cola will not. And while it's true that if Coke used 100% US-based sugars, it would benefit the economy. There's no promise that they're going to do that. Also, the US doesn't produce a lot of cane sugar, so there's serious doubt about whether we would even be able to meet the demand for a large product launch like this.
Yeah. I mean, Trump's environmental policy might help us make more cane sugar pretty soon. But right now, the biggest producer of cane sugar in the world is Brazil. And Trump is putting a 50% tariff on Brazil starting August 1st because Brazil is prosecuting an evil billionaire. Like, dude, you got to pick a lane. You got to pick a focus, Donald.
You got to figure out where you're going, buddy. Yeah. So the second piece of stupidity is a fear of high fructose corn syrup, the current sweetener in a lot of Coke products, which whale beheader-in-chief has named one of his primary targets as head of the HHA. And if RFK Jr. believes it, you know it's bullshit. But just in case any of you listening aren't aware, there is no evidence that high fructose corn syrup is worse for you than sugar.
It's chemically identical once it's in your fucking body, yes.
Exactly. Now, usually when you point this out, people are like, but look at all these studies about how bad sugar is for you. And yeah, too much sugar, bad for you.
Yeah, you shouldn't drink like old Coke or new Coke very much. It doesn't matter how.
The point is, switching to cane sugar that you're going to consume in the same quantity will do nothing to benefit public health.
Yeah, no, they seem to think that they can French fry and Coca-Cola their way to health. It's also worth noting that the U.S. produces 70% of the world's high fructose corn syrup and 2% of its cane sugar. So yeah, not that I endorse Trump's nativist bullshit, but that's pretty hard to reconcile with it one way or the other.
Yeah. Also, Donald, you're in the Epstein files. I almost forgot because we were talking about all this Coke stuff, but you're in the Epstein files.
I have an announcement about Penn. One last thing about this story. As Trump has unveiled his cavalcade of horrors, I've often said, both privately and on this show, that I wouldn't sentence his supporters to most of the things he's done to them. Right? If I had a magic wand, I wouldn't take away people's Medicaid or food stamps for how they voted. I wouldn't drown their children in a flood mismanaged by their incompetence. But I would sentence them to drink new Coke. For once, the consequences of their actions are exactly what they deserve. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, they deserve worse than that too, though. And in Capitulate Show news, there is an admitted air of self-interest when we cover a story about our government being so autocratic that comedians can't safely make fun of it, but it shouldn't just scare those of us whose income it directly affects. It should also scare the people whose commute it directly affects, because let's face it, it's way the fuck easier to force Patreon to, take down any content the regime dubs anti-Christian or biased against conservative viewpoints than it is to fire the most beloved comedic voice of his generation. And Colbert's isn't even the most frightening scalp that Trump's added to his wall of autocracy since our last episode, so you're welcome for me not using an actual klaxon to open this fucking story.
Also, I'm not jealous, just for the record. Trump's probably going to come after us, next, right after our colleague Stephen Colbert.
Yes,
exactly. Wrap up our colleague in comedy.
Hey, look, if anybody understands that you were way funnier than when you committed to a character, but then you dropped it because you wanted people to like you, it's us. And by us, I mean me.
Yes,
it's me.
Yep.
It's me. I get it.
So, of course, this story began when CBS chose to put their thumb on the scale of the American election by deceptively editing a Kamala Harris interview so that it looks like she said what she said. You know how, when I write in my notes that Trump is, quote, what would happen if a post-Halloween curb pumpkin got dumber and racist? And then I look over it and I realize that some people might not be picturing a rotted enough pumpkin when I say that, so I add putrid between Halloween and curb, and thereby unfairly influence the outcome of the election. It was like that.
What I always say, yeah.
Right? So upon their clear failure to sufficiently move the needle with that deception, Trump sued them in a legal action that could not have had less merit if he had accused them of giving him cooties.
Yeah, Trump filed a lawsuit because 60 Minutes did video editing on their television show of video.
Yep.
Apparently that damaged Trump and his campaign for millions of dollars. Just for the record, 60 Minutes released the edit and the full video.
Yep.
And also, this part is important. Trump won the election. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
It's fucking ridiculous. But despite the universally recognized bullshit basis for his suit, CBS's parent company, Paramount, decided to buy Trump off for $16 million because, meritless or no, Trump's administration does control the FCC, and Paramount is trying to close an $8.4 billion deal to sell CBS to Skydance Media, which requires FCC approval. So rather than pretend that it isn't a full-fledged autocracy, Paramount just paid Trump an open fucking bribe, called it a settlement, and then like 4 days later, they got FCC approval for their deal.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about a boycott. So, I mean, well, the moment I'm done streaming the awesome reboot of fucking Matlock on Paramount Plus, this relationship is over.
Ooh, okay. Podcast listener, interactive part of the show. Which of the following is a real Paramount Plus exclusive program?
Ooh.
A, 1923, B, Criminal Minds Evolution, C, Landman, or D, a show called Tulsa King. That's right. Secret answer E, all of the above, even though you have literally never heard of any of those shows in your entire life.
Tom recommended Tulsa King. He said it was good. Anyway, after the bribe went down, Colbert took to the airwaves to describe the proceedings about as accurately and flatteringly as I did, so they fired his ass. Or rather, sorry, they decided not to renew his contract, which isn't up until May of next year. They just decided to get way ahead of the announcement and negotiations by announcing it in advance that, you know, despite him being the consistently highest rated show on late night television, they're firing him. But they insist, of course, that this is a purely financial decision, though they were winking when they said that, and pointing to the eye they were winking with. Yeah.
Yeah. Their new logo has an eyelid over the top of it.
Right, yeah.
Guys, we just wanted to give Strange New Worlds the time in the spotlight that it deserves. And yes, that is also a real Paramount Plus exclusive that you've never fucking heard of.
Okay, our audience has dedefinitely heard of Strange New Worlds, Eli. So
That's true. That's fair.
I should also
But you don't like it, do you?
Now, I should also point out what a perfect barometer Colbert is here, because if you're a fellow old, you might recall that time that George W. Bush accidentally let Colbert headline the White House Correspondents' Dinner because the Colbert Report had just come out and one of his aides didn't realize that the character he was playing on that was there to make fun of them, and they actually thought that he was meant to be the conservative balance to Jon Stewart's liberal Daily Show. And then Colbert showed up and just mercilessly roasted George W. Bush to his fucking face so hard that the president of the United States was trying to hide in a fucking napkin at a certain point. But as embarrassing as that was for the sitting president, there was never even a hint of consideration that he was going to get fired over it, right?
Yeah.
Because we didn't live in the dystopian world of V for Vendetta back then.
Yeah. Hey, W, we could use some of your amazing moral philosophy.
Oh my
right
God,
now.
yeah.
That'd be great. Put down the fucking finger painting for a second.
But the media isn't the only IA that's caving to Trump's authoritarian overreach. Academia followed suit in the form of a $200 million bribe paid by Columbia University in exchange for an end to Trump's very public shakedown. And look, I hesitate to even bring up the anti-Semitism fig leaf that was covering this power grab, because this is about Jewish students on Columbia's campus to the same degree that the fucking Paramount thing was about the integrity of 60 Minutes' editing standards. But it's worth emphasizing that just to remind people that this all grew out of protests that scared Trump. Right? He saw how the protests against Israeli genocide crippled Biden's presidency, and he didn't want that shit biting him. So when he set about attacking institutions of higher learning, he led with, how dare you allow people to protest?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about a boycott. Columbia's a loss. Getting my doctorate in fucking podcasting from Harvard instead.
Yeah. Also, for the record, they didn't allow people to protest, right? They had students arrested. They allegedly collaborated with ICE to try to get student protest leaders who were on green cards kidnapped. Columbia was as on Trump's side as you could possibly be.
Right. No, exactly. But he just needed a scalp. He needed a public, very well-known university to cave to him. And look, I do genuinely want to trash Columbia for their cowardice here, but it's hard to do when nobody with any amount of authority is reining Trump in. right? Trump was choking off hundreds of millions of dollars in university funding. Scientists were having to abandon research in the middle of years-long studies. Top researchers were leaving Columbia because politics be damned. They wanted to get their fucking funding. So this really was an existential threat to the university. And the problem with bullying isn't the victim. So as much as I'd love to see them fight it out, I can't really fault them for living in an authoritarian state that they find themselves in.
I'd like to fault them. So,
okay, go right
I
ahead.
don't know, like grab some money from your $15 billion endowment. Team up with everyone else you can find. I'm also going to fault all the big law firms who caved in the same way. The ones who fought back, like Perkins Coie, already have some wins, actually. 504 other firms signed an amicus brief on behalf of Perkins Coie, and we're seeing hundreds of lawsuits against the administration. So flooding the zone right back in their faces is actually working in some cases. Also, Trump's top lawyer is Pamela Jo Bondi.
Yeah, we
So
should
fire
be
up
taking
some
advantage
cases.
of that. Yeah, right, right.
Yeah. Your Honor, the defense moves its face. Pam Bondi can't move her face. Cannot move her face.
Now, I should also make it clear that this was never about any amount of money. In fact, they apparently don't even know what they're going to do with that $200 million. When asked about it, the best the administration could do was to say that the money was, quote, going to be sort of residing in the U.S. Treasury, but there would need to be specific appropriations in order to, like, spend it on something, end quote. Now, that is a quote from an administration official talking to CNN. That's their official position.
Like calling grandma to thank her for the birthday money that I did not spend it on drugs.
Yeah, right.
I just gonna go for a nice Chipotle.
Yeah. It's also what I say whenever Heath and Noah ask why I want a copy of the company credit card. So it's weird that it's word for word like that.
But far more damning than the 9-digit bribe are the additional concessions that Columbia made to get Trump's foot off their necks. Right, so they also gave up a staggering amount of independence. They agreed to rescind their commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion programs. They allowed the administration to revamp the way they're teaching the history of the Middle East, which is pretty fucked up. They're allowing to implement a bunch of new anti-free speech restrictions on protests, and perhaps most chillingly of all, they've taken on an independent monitor, quote unquote, to assure their ongoing compliance with administration demands. Right, and that monitor will be charged with, among other things, ensuring the university doesn't promote, quote, unlawful DEI goals, end quote, which your guess is as good as any fucking buddy at Columbia's as to what the fuck that means.
Yeah, so all terrible. But here's the thing. If I'm at college right now, if I'm at Columbia, and there's a Trump-appointed DEI narc czar on campus, I'm having some fun with that.
Hell yeah.
Clear. I'll come up with something. Like, not crimes, to be clear, not crimes, CBS logo.
So the Trump administration just showed that they can control what our universities teach and what our comedians say. And yet, the free speech warriors who pop out of every inbox and message board every time there's a fucking racism to defend have been, as near as I can tell, entirely silent about it. There must be a fucking lady in a superhero movie distracting them or something like that.
Yeah. And in Committed to the Bit news. Hey, remember back in the beginning part of the podcast when I said that most of the things Donald Trump declares are wildly inhumane and therefore way harder to make funny? Well, we're going to talk about one of those next, because this week, Donald Trump signed an executive order to increase involuntary commitment, end harm reduction programs, and pursue legal action against supervised drug consumption sites, all in the name of reducing homelessness.
Hey, fun fact, you reduce that with homes.
Oh, yeah. Right. No, hey, the most unsettling part of Ezra Klein's abundance to me was at the very beginning where he says, hey, what's the root cause of homelessness? And then he points out how long it took me to answer not enough homes.
Supply of the thing that's low.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, if you're not aware, one of the incredibly successful programs of the Biden administration, which nobody cared about because talking about it on Twitter doesn't make you feel special, was their housing first approach to combating America's homelessness problem. Turns out that when you provide homeless people housing, like Noah and Heath were just talking about, they do fewer drugs, commit fewer crimes, and stay in the hospital for less time because, try and follow along with me here, it's pretty complex, they have a fucking house to stay in.
Yep, they sure do, yeah.
Can confirm. I actually studied econ at college. There's like a whole esoteric theory on this topic. I don't want to get into the weeds, but Yeah, that is how it works after you do all the math. It's like more houses and then more people have them.
It's so weird that the Biden administration was so consistently framed as a failure in the media despite being the most progressive presidency since FDR. It's almost like the people controlling the narrative were 6 billionaires that own all the speaking.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy. The most progressive climate change in world history. And they did a bunch of, it's okay. It's okay. He spoke badly one time.
Yeah,
but of course, the Trump administration isn't interested in helping people. No, they're interested in punishing the crime of being poor. So, as I said at the top, this week, Trump signed an executive order essentially informing states and cities that if poor people are going to die, they better do it and decrease the surplus population. And I want to point out that even reasonable, relatively liberal people fall for the trap of like the get them off the streets mentality that these programs thrive on, right? They look at places like New York and California and attribute the homelessness problems to like being too darn nice to the unhoused.
Yes, right.
And I want to be very clear because you can research this on your own. Every single study ever done on the subject shows that the exact opposite of that is true, right? When you cut social services, put people in prison for the medical problem of drug addiction, and involuntarily commit people in mental health crisis, it ends up with more people on the streets doing more crimes and less safety for everybody. But it feels punitive, which is the actual point.
Yes.
And that, like everything else, is why Trump is doing it.
Yeah, it's hard to see it without the studies, but it turns out that being constantly reminded of how cruel our society is to the unhoused does not inspire people to be unhoused. They don't choose. It turns out we're not looking at unhoused people and thinking, lucky bastard. That's not how it's happening. That's all you have to fucking know.
Yeah, no, every morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, do I want to quit my job? No, they are sending a lot of people to prison for the crime of being poor. I guess I'll podcast today. One last thing about this story, and I'm going to try and keep myself off the Apple cart as much as possible because I am the third smartest person on the podcast. As the services around you are slashed by the Trump administration, it's important to remember that the government is, in fact, just the collectivized social contract. And that social contract is bad right now. Your uncle was more racist than he was empathetic, and so all that collectivized social contract fucking sucks. But they don't get to decide who you help, right? You still get to volunteer. You still donate your time, your money, your energy. And no, it will obviously not be as helpful as when the government does it, but it is something. And I just want to remind you that nobody gets to vote on whether or not you do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are at least 15 U.S. cities that have laws that ban or restrict feeding unhoused people. So, yes, they can and will. So maybe the call to action should be quick, help somebody before they make that illegal, too. Maybe that's what
you know what? It wasn't as encouraging. That's why I tried
fair.
to keep
I get you.
It's fair. Yours is more accurate.
Yeah.
The laws are like the ducks by the pond. What the fuck are you guys doing?
And in Will Govern for Food news tonight, up until July 3rd of this year, Republicans were very concerned about the national debt. It was the reason why we couldn't provide health coverage for poor people. It was the reason why we couldn't give food to hungry school children. It was the reason why we only had 187 $350 million fighter jets that were retired before they were deployed. But on July 4th, when Trump signed a bill into law that would increase that said debt by over $4 trillion in the next 10 years, suddenly it wasn't such a big deal anymore. In fact, they seem to be ready to treat it exactly how millennials treat their insurmountable and crushing debt, a Venmo link. So now you can apparently Venmo the government directly and help pay down the national debt.
All right, everybody take a minute, check your couch. We'll figure this out.
Is there $100,000 in there?
All right, now I got to go to Coinstar and then that's the whole thing.
Heath, weren't you listening? We can't afford couches. There's
Right,
no-
folding chairs, please.
Gross, J.D. Vance's couch.
Oh, no. So that's why all the money's sticking back there, yeah. So now, to be fair,
I'm stuck.
Americans have had the ability to directly pay down the national debt since at least 1996. And in a testament to just how bad we are at math as a country, many Americans have. According to the Treasury, since 1996, people have donated $67.3 million to pay down the debt.
Oh, that'll put a dent in it.
Yeah, no, it's an amount of money that's absolutely staggering as long as you don't compare it to something like the national debt, which is currently sitting at $36.2 trillion and is growing at the rate of about $55,000 a second. So that $67.3 million represents about half the amount that's accumulated during this episode.
Jesus Christ. All right, well, it seems like we're running a little short on that plan. All right, how do we get people to give more money to the government? I studied econ in college, and there's actually no answer to this.
Oh, really?
There's no answer.
If only there was
Ideas
something
are
inevitable.
welcome.
So, okay,
I brainstormed one, and my professor was like, "No, you didn't. Fuck you."
Oh, interesting. So to further illustrate just how hopeless the math is, I turned to our friends at Axios. Axios, for when you want to read the news without all the hassle of reading the news. I actually love Axios. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it's just the shit I need to know. Thank you. So, like I
They
said,
put the news below it. They're like, if you want to check.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll listen to Ezra talk about it for 2 hours if I want. Yeah.
Oh, sure. So, like I said, the only thing new is that you can now make these payments through Venmo. So a reporter from Axios went through the process all the way to the submit button, which they didn't hit, and they timed it. Took about 1 minute and 20 seconds to get through the process, in which time the debt rose by about $4.5 million. And since Venmo doesn't let you donate $4.5 million, they actually cap the donations at $999,999.99. You literally couldn't donate money as fast as the debt grew, even if you had the full $36 trillion in your Venmo account.
All right, so PayPal? Is that the problem? We need to get PayPal involved?
No, they actually have PayPal too.
Okay, maybe I missed it, and I know there's nothing more deadly to comedy than a question, but what? Why is this a program?
Right.
Like I know we're a bunch of truck nut having American flag diaper wearing idiots, but I didn't think we were hucking the nation $20 like that friend we're pretending isn't an addict. Just like, hey man, I think I never paid you back for that pizza. Like, what are we doing?
Everybody reach into the pockets. We can get a Dutch master if we combine forces.
All right, so it turns out that this is not a viable strategy for tackling the national debt. But the good news is that all the budget hawks have taken 3.5 years off from giving a shit about that, and their supporters are generally dumb enough to think that the $12 they PayPal'd Uncle Sam made a dent. So I'm sure we'll be fine money-wise, and if we start running low, Trump can just shake down some more colleges.
And finally tonight, in Ukraine kick news.
Oh, nice.
Donald Trump has been in office during his second term for 190 days. And that means the end of the war between Russia and Ukraine is about 189 days overdue. Oh, yeah. Trump said he'd end it in 24 hours.
He said one day. He didn't say which 24 hours.
Oh, no, it's a good technicality. Well, Trump recently decided that Vladimir Putin might not be the honest actor we all thought he was, and apparently we're taking up a stronger posture. Trump announced a version of indirect military support for Ukraine, and he gave Russia a deadline of 50 days to make a peace deal, or else there's going to be tariffs. So Trump's going to count to 50. Well, he's going to 4,320,000 seconds. He's going to count to 4,320,000. And if Putin doesn't make a deal with Zelensky, Russia's going to get tariffs.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, look out or we'll treat you almost as bad as our allies.
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to tighten my borscht belt.
Yeah, right. We want to have access to any of those Russian goods.
Because we input.
And just for the record, Donald Trump would like us to all know that he did not get fooled by Vladimir Putin.
No?
No. Yeah. Well, I did a quick check on that. You decide. Here's a few things that Trump said this year regarding Vladimir Putin. Quote, I believe he wants peace. I mean, I know him very well. Yeah, I think he wants peace. I think he would tell me if he didn't. Trump also said, I think he'll keep his word. I've spoken to him. I've known him for a long time now, you know. I don't believe he is going to violate his word. And then earlier this month, Trump said, we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless. And then last week, Trump said, he's fooled a lot of people. He fooled Bush. He fooled Clinton. He fooled Obama. He fooled Biden. He didn't fool me.
Me,
And
he,
exact quote most recently.
me, he blackmailed. Yeah.
I mean, I loved my former boss, so I feel like I can't really blame him. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, man, that guy was great.
Okay, so I mentioned the plan for indirect military support to Ukraine. Trump said we're going to sell critical weapons like missile systems to our NATO allies in Europe, and then those countries can give stuff to Ukraine if they want. And that brings us to the most important part of the news. The sales to NATO are being handled by our new ambassador to NATO named Matthew Whitaker. He was also a federal prosecutor in Iowa and the acting attorney general during part of Trump's first term, between the resignation of Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, the fucking 19th or whatever, and the confirmation of William Barr. Whitaker was in between those two. Side note, William Barr is the son of Donald Barr, the headmaster at the Dalton School of New York City, when Jeffrey Epstein got hired to be a math teacher.
Okay.
Donald Barr was the headmaster at that moment.
That was just because he was Jewish. Okay, don't.
Hey, Heath, maybe we don't start throwing random shade at people who did extensive work at the Dalton School in New York City, huh?
Thank you.
What? Static or something. Other side note, Donald Barr published a sci-fi novel in 1973 called Space Relations, A Slightly Gothic Interplanetary Tale. And it's about a planet ruled by oligarchs who did a whole bunch of child sex slavery.
Interesting. Am I doing it right? Did I know?
Something like that.
I feel like you did it right. Yeah, that was good.
That's a real thing. It's fucking terrifying. And one other detail about Matt Whitaker. This is actually the most important part of the story, Matt Whitaker's other backstory. So he was on the board of a company called World Patent Marketing, or WPM. That company claimed to be in the business of promoting new inventions, but they were actually in the business of extremely obvious fraud. And that fraud was determined officially by the FTC right before the company folded. And during Whitaker's time on the board, he used his former position as a federal prosecutor to threaten people who called out the company on their very obvious lying. For example, Whitaker called the owner of Ripoff Report, which already not a great sign if you have to make that call at all. And Whitaker threatened to have the government shut down Ripoff Report using some kind of homeland security law if they didn't remove negative reports about WPM.
Yeah, just won a big lawsuit against hearing the names of all the rapists.com. I'm feeling pretty great about it.
Okay, so what was WPM selling, you might ask? Great question. I'll start with time-traveling crypto.
What?
Huh.
Yeah, they had a product called Time Travel X that was claimed to be a theoretical time travel commodity tied directly to the price of Bitcoin.
Security not guaranteed.
Right. Much like present Bitcoin. They also sold Sasquatch dolls, promoted with a video that said, DNA evidence collected in 2013 proves that Bigfoot does exist. I have no idea why it's a doll or like what it does, what the product is, but they had that.
I don't like to criticize on air, but can I speak from my heart? I feel like you spent more time on Jeff Epstein's teaching CV than you did on the Bigfoot dolls. And as a company, I'm going to need you to focus on our priorities, okay?
Yeah. So a little known fact, not only does that DNA prove Bigfoot exists, it proves that Bigfoot is our buddy Jeff from Spokane, if you can believe that.
Okay, but most importantly, at WPM, they sold big dick toilets.
That's why we're talking about it. Okay.
Yeah, they called it the masculine toilet. The name of the product was Masculine Toilet, and it has a bowl shape that was designed to help well-endowed men deal with the very difficult task of shitting.
Oh, you don't have to throw it over
there.
your shoulder anymore. Yeah,
a mess of shit water all over your dick and balls. They finally
let me get the medical tape.
solved it. Thank God. Their marketing said, quote, "The average male genitalia is between 5 and 6 inches. This invention is designed for those of us who measure longer than that."
Us.
Yeah, we still have every single one they made in stock, so if someone out there could buy one.
So, yeah, that's right. The former acting attorney general and current U.S. ambassador to NATO was peddling a big dick toilet, pretending it wasn't very clearly for sagging balls. Fucking America right there.
Honestly, at this point, pretending our saggy balls are a big dick could be the national slogan. You just put that shit in Latin, right? Or if you figure out how to draw it, it could be our symbol. Yeah.
Exactly.
Coming to a dollar bill near you.
All right, I love it. A little honesty for America. On that note, we're going to close it out. Thanks to No Illusions. Thanks to Eli Bosnick. And thanks to all the listeners who liked us and follow us on all the various internets. Please keep doing that. Please keep listening. And please keep telling your friends. And if you find the naive stupidity of our giving away a free show business model to be oddly charming, you can send us gifts of money at patreon.com/Skepticrat. Just like all the generous new donors, you will be complimented next time around. And whether or not you're feeling financially benevolent like those fine people, if you enjoyed our brand of whimsy and you'd like to hear more dick jokes for your charge, check out our brother and sister shows, The Scathing Atheist, GodAwfulMovies, D&D Minus, and Citation Needed, available in all the podcast places. We just have one last thing. Let's compliment that penis. Special thanks to Ryan Slotnick of Evil Giraffes on Mars. He's the creator of the virtuosic musical stylings you hear today, which were used with permission. You should definitely check them out using the links we'll provide or by Googling the only band called Evil Giraffes on Mars. Until next time, catchphrase sign off. Dude, I know I can edit out chunks of your shit.
No, obviously. I wanted you to know that I knew this one was right there at the edge of the chop. I pretend not to know when most
Every
of my
time you
shit
talk
is-
about...
Oh, God.
Morgan, can you just come in here and get rid of this? I know you're not here now. I don't want it in my area.
Yeah, Heath's going to have to edit this with a fucking hazmat suit. Yeah.
The preceding podcast was a production of Puzzle and the Thunderstorm, LLC, copyright 2025, all rights reserved.
For over 30 years, BHM has been the trusted CPA firm for closely held businesses across Ohio and West Virginia.
BHM has made life easier for myself and our company when it comes to tax and accounting.
At BHM, we develop top talent to tackle your most complex challenges.
A CPA firm can be the lifeblood to a successful business. If you don't feel that way about your firm, ask yourself why not.
Visit BHMCPAgroup.com to schedule a consultation. BHM, the CPA firm simplifying the complex.